Hi there. In this week's edition of The Wrap, we're looking at the dark days dogging South Africans, what with load shedding and the aftermath of floods in the KZN and the Eastern Cape. At least when it comes to the latter, South Africans have banded together, as we so often do in times of crisis, but we also want the government to do much better on this front. Plus, we tell you why we're so leery of NASA's attempts to reach aliens in outer space and celebrate #DeafTalk, which started as a niche social media community for the hearing impaired and just keeps on growing. So let's dive into your weekly update of empowering and easy to understand news brought to you by Verashni Pillay and the explain.co.za team. All right, up in our take, build trust before building the country. South Africans are amazing in crisis, aren't we? We're proving it again by banding together to help thousands of people affected by the devastating floods that wrecked parts of the KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. Tragically, more than 400 people have been confirmed dead and 40,000 people were. One of the largest organizations helping to provide relief in this time is our national superhero, Gift of the Givers. Come hell or high water, quite literally, the disaster relief group provides support in the form of food packages, shelter, and other essentials to help people get back on their feet. Kudos too to the University of Johannesburg for setting up a fund to help out. Its council chair and vice chancellor will be donating personally 120,000 towards relief efforts in the flood affected areas rather. And South African actress Charlize Theron will also launched a fundraiser via her foundation, but social media reaction to her announcing was very telling. South Africans begged her not to give her money to a corrupt government. Theron says the money will go to a partner organizations on the ground. UJ also plans to donate its funds to Gift of the Givers rather than the government. It's telling that the government itself isn't confident that it can keep the billions of public relief funds earmarked for disaster relief in the KZN safe from corruption. It's looking at bringing in an independent agency to manage some of the fund, the Sunday Times reported. Finance Minister Enoch Gobondwana said on Saturday that the agency option was being discussed as a way to insulate the funds from corruption and to ensure that they are used for their intended purpose. It's tragic that our government public service cannot be trusted. We're so skeptical that President Cyril Ramaphosa had to explicitly mention corruption when addressing his fellow South Africans on Monday night. By the way, he placed us back under the national state of disaster just 2 weeks after we exited a long COVID-induced state of disaster. External stakeholders will oversee expenditure, he promised, to ensure that all the money is properly accounted for. Gee, thanks, Mr. President. It seems clear from his comments and widespread cynicism that the government has more to rebuild than just the flood-damaged areas. It needs to focus on gaining the public's trust and building confidence. We, much like you, will be watching government's relief and recovery strategy closely. Meanwhile, concerned patriots will be on hand. We just hope they won't have to keep doing the government's job. All right, on to our big story. It's entirely possible that you're reading this wrap by candlelight because along with taxes, death, the wind in Cape Town and delays to Jacob Zuma's trial, load shedding has become a fact of life in South Africa. The blackout started last week and rolled back into this week, making it for a less than a lit Easter weekend. Heavy rains were the culprit this time around. They, as you may have guessed, resulted in wet coal, another South African axiom, alas. Well, when coal is wet, it becomes sticky and slimy, and this can often lead to blockages in generating units. That leads to breakdowns and low generating capacity. Last week, at least 6 different units lost generation capacity, and this week brought more capacity crises. Eskom has also announced yesterday that stage 2 load shedding will be continuing until tomorrow. And this certainly won't be the last time our old friend, darkness, visits us. Winter is coming. Maybe we could borrow some dragons from Game of Thrones universe to light up our lives. And Eskom has warned that between 37 and up to 101 days of load shedding. That's because we'll be using more electricity to stay warm, and our old, poorly maintained generation units can't handle the pressure. Gas stove, clear your fireplace, and invest in a decent pair of gloves, we guess. But here's the thing, while we can manage our own power usage, it's not up to us to fix Eskom's many problems. The power utilities CEO Andre de Ruyter seemed to acknowledge this when he outlined measures that government could take to alleviate the pressure of the grid. These measures include increased reliance on existing independent power producers to supply electricity to the national grid, as well as asking government and the National Power Energy Regulator to support Eskom's efforts for small generators to supply Eskom on 3-year contracts. He also called on the National Treasury to compensate Eskom for revenue lost through municipalities' unpaid bills. Money doesn't seem to help, though. The government has already poured billions of rands into the power utility, which is 392 billion rands in debt, but in the 14 years that load shedding has been around, few changes have occurred. A shift to renewables and loosening of the Eskom monopoly is the final solution. Both are in the works, but there's a long road ahead. Ever thought about getting solar energy in your home? With the state of South Africa's energy crisis, it makes sense. Plus, you'd tread more lightly on the earth. But wow, the options out there are simply dizzying. Are we the only ones trying to figure out what a kilowatt hour is? Before you splash out tens or hundreds of thousands rand of solar for your home, we highly recommend just spending 295 rand on Urban Earth's course about how to choose the right system. They have a class coming up on the 10th of May 2022. That's Tuesday. You need to understand your needs first, get a sense of what you can afford, and be guided through the available options. Urban Earth has been in the environmental consulting game for over 10 years, working on great projects across the country, so we do trust them on this. We told you about their courses before and attended one. They're small with individual attention from one of the company's highly experienced co-founders. You'll learn about the components of a solar PV system, how to work out which size of solar PV system is right for your home, and about grid-tied and non-grid-tied solar system. We especially love the calculation tool that they share with the course participants to help work out how long it will take for you to pay back a solar PV solution in terms of electricity saved. Plus, you get a further 50 Rand off as an Explain subscriber. Just use the code explain at checkout. Take a look at the upcoming courses here and tell them we sent you. www.urbanearth.co.za/online courses/solar PV for the home. All right, on to this story now. Aren't we alone is a question that mankind has asked since we crawled out of the primordial ooze. That's why it came as no surprise to learn that NASA-led team of international scientists has decided to send out a message to the heavens, the latest in a long history of SETI, communication with extraterrestrial intelligence attempts. The project, called Beacon in the Galaxy, wants to say hello from the other side. Apologies to Adele. The message will include information about the basic concepts in communication, maths, physics, and even the constituents of DNA. It will likely be sent to the heart of our galaxy, the Milky Way, by the SETI's Institute of Alien Telescope Array in California, and China's more than 500-meter aperture spherical radio telescope. Having barely survived pandemics, war, and global financial crashes, perhaps it's time that Scotty beamed us up. But these ongoing attempts aren't without their detractors. The great late Professor Stephen Hawking has previously warned against making first contact with the potential visitors from the skies, having said that if aliens visited us, the outcome would be akin to Columbus landing in America. As he put it didn't turn out so well for the Native Americans. Assuming that ET is small enough but easy enough to understand any of this data we share, scientists plan to include our address and some helpful information about us as a species. More like they don't like to recycle, actively driving extinction. Hopefully, this alone would be enough to deter the intelligent species to stay away for their own good, really. If aliens do come calling, one hopes that they're more like ET and less like Klingons. The last thing we need is an alien overlord that doesn't come in peace. We already have Mark Zuckerberg. All right, and you will probably need to keep bugs at bay this winter. COVID 19 is starting to feel like a nightmare from which we're finally slowly being roused. But with the winter en route, there are fresh concerns about another wave of the virus hitting South Africa. The nature of the pandemic is, unfortunately, of this nature. Experts say that the predicted winter spike won't be as hard as previous waves. However, this week South Africa recorded its highest number of positive cases since February. That's at least 2 months. Here's how to protect yourself as the cold weather moves in. First up, you've got to mask up. Just because you're wearing masks outdoors is not mandatory anymore doesn't mean we're exempt from being responsible human beings. The scientific evidence shows that masks do work. Dr. Scott Gottlieb, a former commissioner of the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, told CNBC this week that one-way mask wearing, you wear a mask even if others are unmasked, can help guard against COVID. Get your booster and flu vaccines. COVID 19 is not the only bug going around in South Africa. Flu season is approaching, and you don't want to deal with the snotty nose and a dry cough on top of the cold, right? All right. And in other sad news, deadly fires have displaced many in Langa. At least 1,000 people are without homes in Langa in Cape Town after fire ravaged the informal settlement in the township over the weekend. The cause of the fire is still unknown. 3 fires broke out in Langa's Joslovo informal settlement on Saturday evening and were only extinguished around midnight. Thankfully, no fatalities were recorded, but many people who spent the long weekend with family elsewhere returned to devastation. Gift of the Givers arrived on the scene with relief packages and food to support those affected. Many of those displaced are being housed in community halls or with family and friends, while they make plans to rebuild their lives. While fires in informal settlements are not uncommon, especially in Cape Town, they are devastating and affect the most vulnerable South Africans. One resident, Sipho Nyamki, told News 24, "My neighbor doesn't speak English but has a 5-month-old baby that's coming home on Tuesday with the mother, and they need a place to stay. It's very sad, but what can we do? We must just rebuild our homes again." Shortly after the fires broke out, DA Federal Council chairperson Helen Ziller started another small fire, this time on social media. Responding to the floods in KwaZulu-Natal in KZN in KwaZulu-Natal during an interview on 702, she said that it was better to be poor in Langa in the Western Cape than it is to be poor anywhere else in the country, because supposedly better service delivery. A tone-deaf comment, but nothing surprising at this point from the former Western Cape Premier turned quasi-alt-righter. And South African musician Lira suffers a stroke. Acclaimed South African pop musician Lira, whose real name is Lerato Lira Molapo, suffered a severe stroke this week while in Germany for a performance. The multi-platinum award-winning artist is 43 years old, had to be rushed to South Africa to receive urgent treatment. Her management team said in a statement that the stroke has unfortunately affected her ability to communicate. It is unlikely that she will be able to perform in the short term, they said. They said of the singer of popular hits such as Feel Good and Soul and Mind. That said, Lira is in good spirits and is surrounded by her loving family and close friends as she journeys towards a full recovery, the statement read. This is a sobering reminder about the dangers of strokes, especially in women. The US's Center for Disease Control and Prevention says that strokes are the third leading cause of death in women. It adds that women who suffer hypertension, depression, who have high blood pressure, or being pregnant are at an even higher risk. Strokes are the result of a blocked or burst blood vessel in the brain. They can hit suddenly and without many warning signs, but you can look out for a drooping face, weak arms, slurred speech. As with so much else, prevention is definitely better than cure. Go to a frequent health checkup and to mitigate your stroke risk. It could save your life. And finally, hashtag DevTalk, a community worth celebrating. If you have teenagers in your life, or if you just love scrolling through endlessly entertaining content, you're familiar with TikTok. It's all about short, snappy video clips, think skits, lip syncing, and dancing. But like many social media apps, it was long not particularly friendly to deaf and hard of hearing users. Deaf influencer Scarlett Waters has previously decried how little of the digital world is deaf friendly. The most popular apps are not accessible to us. YouTube does automatic closed captions, but they're not correct and words will be all over the place. Instagram does not provide closed captions, so think of all the educational videos that you guys see. We miss out on important events daily. TikTok, the most popular app right now, has nothing. That changed in April 2021 when TikTok added auto caption feature that caters for those who are hard of hearing or deaf. A year later, the app's deaf communities has flourished and videos with the #DefTalk have clocked up to more than 1 billion views. We love how creators are using the hashtag to raise awareness about accessibility issues, sharing information about life as a deaf person, and educating viewers on interacting with deaf people. Waters now has over 5 million followers. She posts everything from powerful advocacy videos showing how difficult it is to be waved off as a deaf person in a hearing world, to cute ASL covers using American Sign Language to sing along to the lyrics whilst lip syncing. Creators are also able to edit the transcript for better accuracies. Users have the option to turn the captions on and off. The feature is only available in American English and Japanese, but TikTok says additional language support will be available in the coming months. It's great to see a step in the right direction. That's it from us at The Wrap, an award-winning product of Explain.co.za, simple news summaries for busy people. The Wrap is sponsored by the Explains Agency Division. We specialize in content marketing for purpose-driven organizations, often with a pan-African reach. Mail info.co.za for a quote. Subscribe and remember to share the love. To sign up for the updates on www.explain.co.za/subscribe. Till next time, that's it from the team.